Hey everyone, Tactics here, and we got some exciting news yesterday with 9.1's first iteration going up on the PTR. There are a ton of changes, including a new raid, a new mega dungeon, updates to Soulbind and Legendaries, and of course, class balance. Most, if not all, of these updates are currently incomplete, as this is just the first iteration on the PTR, and we can expect changes to occur weekly for anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks, I believe is the normal amount. And I'll be covering all of those on this channel here, so make sure you like this video and subscribe to keep up to date with all of the changes going into 9.1. Speaking of changes, let's start by looking at the official Blizzard patch notes. They posted this on their site, and it has a bunch of spec tuning, mostly nerfs to the current bigger players. So starting with balance, the first is actually a buff to new moons, a talent they never used. Their moons were coming from Convoke, not from this talent. So it'll be interesting to see if this actually pushes it to a talent that is usable. And then we have a nerf to a couple talents here, Solstice and Stellar Drift. Just a damage nerf to Solstice, and Stellar Drift now actually makes Starfall have a 15-second cooldown. On top of this, the free Starfall from Onus Clear Vision will ignore this talent now, so it won't have a cooldown, just to prevent that weird interaction from a legendary that's already not on top currently. Their on top legendary, though, Balance of All Things, got its critical strike chance reduced from 40% to 24%, but the decrease curve has been drastically reduced, so now it only reduces by 3% crit per second rather than 8%. So basically, after 3 seconds, these two legendaries, or these two iterations of the legendary, are about equal, and then after 3 seconds, the current iteration will give you more crit. So basically, it kind of reduces their burst, but gives them more crit over a longer period of time. That definitely does hurt, because what Boomkins were doing was triggering this effect just before convoking, right? So the beginning and the most of their convoke would have that larger critical strike chance increase than it does with this change to the 24%, because I mean it's a 4-second channel, so they were getting most of the benefit from this old iteration. This new iteration, basically things that come in the back half will have a slightly higher crit chance. It's definitely a net nerf, but it's not terrible. Moving on, we have Fire Mage, who got absolutely blasted right here. Flame Strike damage reduced by 10%, Flame Patch damage reduced by 10%, that was like the go-to Mythic Plus. Kindling talent cooldown reduction for combustion is now 1 second down from 1.5 seconds. That's a pretty hefty nerf. It doesn't only seem like half a second, but that's like a 33% nerf to that talent. That's a big nerf. And then the biggest one here, I believe, is the Infernal Cascade Conduit, which was their best in slot conduit. It was really, really good. It got a 20% damage reduction. Now, this is actually a ton of nerfs to Fire Mage. It's a decent hit to their single target, which already wasn't like fantastic top tier or anything. But it is also a big hit to their AoE. It's a much bigger hit to their AoE than a single target. I actually would not be surprised if they walked some of these nerfs back or gave them some compensation buffs, because it just seems like a lot right now for Fire Mage. They are absolutely insane in Mythic Plus. That is true. They need to be brought back a bit, but this hurts them a lot, especially for raids. Like, I think if this goes through, you're taking Frost Mages to raid. You're not taking Fire Mages. Moving down, Discipline, Spirit Shell. With the repeated nerfs it's been getting, it got another one. So Spirit Shell cooldown increased to 90 seconds from 60 seconds. Now, we're not going to know how bad this is going to be until we actually see the raid fights. Basically, if Spirit Shell still lines up well, nicely with ability timers that you want Spirit Shell for, it's still going to be an insane talent. It's becoming more and more niche after each of these nerfs. So the other talent on that row, I believe it's Evangelism on that row that you'll be taking probably in most cases now. It depends on how the fight timers line up. If there's a good lineup, like a minute and a half or even every 2 minutes, you just hold Spirit Shell for a little bit longer. If there's an every 2-minute ability, it's still an insane talent, right? It's still really, really good. Another interesting change here for Holy, Symbol of Hope, was redesigned. Bolster of the morale of party or raid members within 40 yards, each recovering 60 seconds of a major defensive ability and regaining 12% of their missing mana. This definitely could be very, very strong. This sounds really, really good. It depends on what the things, what cooldowns it reduces, right? So we're not 100% sure what it's going to reduce yet. I don't think they're all in the game yet, but we'll have to see what these cooldowns end up being. But that could be a very, very interesting ability for Holy Priest to have. Then we have a nerf to Shadow Priest single target here with their Dissonant Echoes conduit. It now grants only 20% increased Void Bolt damage from 35%. This Shadow did have pretty insane single target. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more nerfs going to them later on in the PTR. We then have just, I think just a little buff to a conduit here for rogues. Not too big a deal there. And then we move on to Warlock. So Dark Pact, additional Absorb Shield has been increased by 216%. That is a large bonus. I don't know if this makes it the go-to talent. I'm not too much of a Warlock player. But that's a big number, 216%. Destruction saw a 10% buff to their Chaos Bolt damage. And then Affliction saw an 18% nerf to their Malefic Rapture damage there. And then also their Focus Malignancy conduit saw its effectiveness reduced by 53%. So that is a big nerf. They did get Agony damage increased by 20%. And one of their legendaries redesigned, so their corruption damage increased by 25% instead of 15%. And each time it deals damage, it extends the duration of all your curses active on the target by 2 seconds, instead of corrupted target's movement speed slowed by 50%. So that definitely hurts Affliction. There are no D-mode changes here of note. And as if you guys are familiar with playing from patch to patch in WoW, stamina scaling goes crazy. From patch to patch, there's a drastic increase with the eye level, and right now the current iteration of Demo has stamina scaling as a very good stat. So with these nerfs to Affliction, I think even despite these destruction buffs, obviously destruction still has that niche of 2-target cleave, but Demo on the rise here, and we'll cover that for sure later on though. That is it for the initial patch or initial class tuning. In this patch, there will of course be changes to this every week, most likely maybe every other week, so I will keep you up to date on that. In terms of system stuff, there's 40 more renown levels and new Soulbind stuff. So every single Soulbind in the game after its current bottom thing, it has a bunch of new stuff. So every single one goes down into a potency conduit first, so everyone will get a new potency conduit on every Soulbind guaranteed. Then you have 2 traits to choose from. It goes in 2 different directions. And then each of those traits will lead into, one of them leads into an endurance conduit, one of them leads into a finesse conduit, and then they both come back together to give the capper trait. That is true for every single Soulbind in the game. I'm betting there's going to be heavy changes to those Soulbind traits as of now, so I'll go over that probably in the future weeks as we see those changes closer to the patch release, just so you guys can see a final iteration rather than an initial iteration of those traits. Dungeons and Raids, there's the new raid. That testing is actually starting this Friday, April 16th, and shameless plug, I'll probably be trying to stream that, so you can check me out at Tactics. But yeah, that's very soon. I think some people were expecting that to happen maybe like next week, but yeah, very soon that raid testing is happening for Terragru, which is looking like the first boss, and then Guardian of the First Ones, which is like a middle boss. It's looking like. Items and raid rewards. Imperial Ordnance did see a nerf to the cooldown it puts on use trinkets, 40 seconds instead of 20 seconds. So I guess trying to dissuade casters from using 2 on use, with one of them being Ordnance. And then we have a bunch of PvP changes down here. I'm not going to really go over that. Not much of a PvP guy. And then we have rune carving powers. So there are new legendary powers on the PTR. These are class specific and covenant specific, so each class is getting 4 new legendaries, 1 specific to each covenant. Not fully sure how I feel about that yet, but I guess we'll see as the PTR rolls out. Currently it's only for 4 classes, so Death Knight, Druid, Warrior, and Mage, and even then they don't have all of the covenant powers for each of those classes yet. I'm going to go over those when they are actually all out, and we'll go through them all then. The other big thing actually Raider.io posted about, there's going to be a core feature, Mythic Plus scores, in the game, just straight in the game. Blizzard's going to be implementing Mythic Plus scores. This is actually really great news. This is something I actually talked about maybe way earlier on when I was talking about Shadowlands beta stuff. But if Mythic Plus ever wants to have a reward system more than what they have, and have like some sort of like their own leaderboards and ladder system, like, and have rewards like a gladiator-esque rewards where like you get progressively more stuff as you go higher up. Blizzard would probably need to implement their own Mythic Plus scores, and it's looked like that's exactly what they're doing. They're implementing their own system, and this gives them basically a lot more control. They can hand out a lot more rewards similar to PvP based on rating, and so we'll have to see how the score is implemented. It does look like it's being worked on by the Raider.io team, so it's going to be somewhat similar to theirs. I do hope it keeps a lot of the similar calculations on, like, for example, you can't lose rating, those kinds of things, because I think Raider.io has a pretty good score system already. But I'm glad they're working with them, and I'm really, really happy to see this coming in, because it'll be interesting to see new reward systems coming in for Mythic Plus, something that previously just has never existed for it, and I'm excited to see it. As a Mythic Plus guy, I'm really excited to see what this system turns into. But that does wrap up these initial PTR notes, guys. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be going over all the changes as they go live on the PTR here on the channel, so make sure you like this video and subscribe to be notified when I post more information. I'll also be trying to get into all of the different raid boss testing sessions, which I'll stream live on my Twitch at Tactics, so feel free to stop by and say hi. That's all for now, though. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.